Hello friends, we have created our first web mapping application wherein we displayed a OSM layer using the leaflet. It is providing basic functionality of zoom in and zoom out, which you can perform through this button as well as through the mouse scroll button. Now today we are going to add some more functionality to our web mapping application. Let us look at that. What we will do is we will add multiple base layers to our web page. So and we will add a layer switcher like this so that we can switch between the base layers. So right now you can see OSM layer is switched on. Now I can switch to stem and watercolor, so you can see the base map has changed. Similarly, I can switch to world satellite imagery, which is provided by ESRI. So we will add multiple base layers and this layer switching capability. We are also going to add India state layers, that is coming from Geo server WMS services. So we can also switch it on and off. So we are going to add this layer switcher functionality to our web mapping application. Additionally, we will add this measure length button to the web page. So when we click on it, it turns into grid, and then I can click on the map at multiple location, and you can see that it is providing segment length as well as total length of the line which I have drawn. When I double click it, it will finish the drawing. So you can see this is how the length is available. I can click at multiple places and I can measure the length. When I click this button again, all the graphics will be removed from the web page. So these are the two basic functionalities which we are going to add now. Now let us have a look at the coding part. So I'm closing this web page and we'll start from the page where we left last time. So let me open up a code editor. So this is our HTML file where we left last time, our JavaScript file and a style file. So we will begin working with HTML file. Now to provide the various base layers, we will use one of the Leaflet plugin. So let me come here, and this is the Leaflet website that we have opened. We will go to the plugin sections and we will use this base map providers. So I'm clicking on that, and here we'll scroll down and we'll use the simplest most base map provider, that is Leaflet providers. Let me click on that. So it is available through GitHub, and then we'll scroll down a little bit. We are required to download our JavaScript file which we can plug in into our web mapping application. So let me look for a JavaScript file where it is available. So it is available here. When I click on this leaflet provider.js, it will take me to this JavaScript file. Now I can just right click and say save as, and then I have to provide the path where I want to save it. So I am having my application launched in Apache htdocs, and this is the leaflet. So I'll create a folder here, say resources, and inside that resources I'll copy this leaflet provider.js file. So I have saved the file. It will be downloaded to my local system. So it is downloaded. Now let me go back and let us see how to use this plugin. So once we have downloaded, we have to provide a path in our HTML file. So let me give a path here. So what we are supposed to write is, first of all, let me add a comment. So leaflet providers is a comment, and then I'll add a script element. Leaflet providers. So this is how I have given a reference to a leaflet provider's JavaScript file which we have downloaded. Now we can use the functionalities of it. So let me save this HTML file and let us go to the JavaScript part. Now here it is very simple to use. So when I want to add a open source layer, how to add it? Let us see. So we will come back here and then we will use this preview option. So when I click on it, it will take me to the new page wherein it is providing various base maps and how to add it to the provider. So here you can see it is providing me the code part, how to add it to my web mapping application. So let us come back to our code. So here I am creating a variable called OSM map, and then I am using leaflet dot tile layer dot provider. This provider functionality is coming from the script which we have added just now. So this is the simple code which I have to write for adding OpenStreetMap layer into my web mapping application. I also want to add stem and watercolor. So let us come back here. So this was the code for adding OpenStreetMap. Now we have to scroll here and then look for stem and watercolor. Yeah, here it is. So when I click on this thing, it is providing this particular code. So I have to copy this, and then when I come back to my application, I will use Visual Studio Code shortcut to copy this line, and then I'll paste this stem in color. Similarly, I want to add world satellite imagery provided by ESRI. So here I'll again look for ESRI source. Yeah, here you can see ESRI world imagery. When I click on that, I'll get this option. So I'll copy and then paste it here. So we have created variables. Here I am required to change the variable name, stem and map, imagery map. So I have created three variables. I'm using leaflet providers for accessing various base maps. Now I have just created the variable but not added it into the map right now. So what I am doing is, in order to have switching functionality the way we have shown, I am not directly adding all this layer to the map, but I am creating a variable called base maps. So it is a base map variable which I have created, and in that I am defining OSM layer and setting it the variable OSM map. Other variable is stem and watercolor, and I'm using the variable stem and map. And third is world imagery, and I'm using a variable imagery map. So I have defined my base map as a variable which is a group of all these three base layers. Now last time we have added a GSM layer through this code. You can see over here OpenStreetMap layer. So I am removing this particular line. I do not require it right now. So I'm deleting this line because we already have OSM and other base map layers here. Now only thing that I have to do is I'm creating a variable map layers, and then I'm using leaflet control functionality, and in that I am adding base maps. and then I am calling the functionality add to and using the map as a variable. So what it is basically doing, it is adding all the base map layers into the my map, and because I am using a base map, it will automatically add the layer switcher functionality. So let me save this. What we are going to do is, in the last video we have seen that we have created a map variable and set it to view in a single line of code, but we want to add layers parameter. So to achieve that, we will modify this code a little bit. So let us modify this code as well. So I am initializing this map variable and changing some of the parameters. I want to have zoom level of 5 when the map is initially loaded, and when map is loaded I want to add layers, that is OSM map. So this is the layer that has to be added when I first of all load the map. So this is the code which we have modified. Now when I save it, and let me go back to our application and let me refresh it, you can see that it has added a layer switcher, and all the three base map which we have added are available in the form of radio buttons. So I can switch between all these three layers. So right now OSM is the active layer. I can switch to stem and watercolor, so you can see the map is available, and when I switch to world imagery, it will reflect the same in the map area. So this is how we have added a layer switching functionality. Now we will add one more layer, that is nothing but a India state layer that is coming from GeoServer WMS services. So let us come back to our coding part. Now in order to add this layer, I am defining some of the variable which we will be using frequently throughout our tutorial. So I am creating a variable. So I am defining a GeoServer IP port where my GeoServer is actually functioning. So I am localhost 8085. This is where my GeoServer application is running. I am defining another variable to identify GeoServer workspace, and that is GIS in my case. And then I am identifying other variable, state layer name. So these are the three variables which I have defined in order to access GeoServer functionality. And then let me define a variable for GeoServer layer. So I am using tilelayer.wms for accessing GeoServer WMS layer. And this is the URL which we have to pass. And now here I'll be using those variables. GeoServer IP port. So this is the URL which we have to provide when accessing GeoServer WMS services. And then there are certain parameters like which is the layers we want to add from GeoServer. So we have already defined a state layer name here, so we'll use that parameter, which is the format in which I want to load the tiles. So I'll define as PNG format. Now, when there is no data in that particular tile, how I want to display that tile? So I'm conveying as transparent and WMS version which I want to use, that is 1.1.0 tiled true. So these are the parameters which I have to pass. So we have defined a state layer variable which is accessing GeoServer WMS functionality, and these are the parameters for accessing that. Now, instead of adding it directly to the open layers, I will create one more variable similar to the base maps layer which we have created here, base map variable. I am creating a overlay maps variable, and that this variable is having India states as one of the layer, and I will use India state layer as a parameter. So this is how we have defined this overlay maps variable. Now we'll add it to, because by default I want this layer to be switched on, so I am adding it directly here, India state layer. If I don't add it here, it will be by default it will be switched off, and when I add it to the base map layers like this, so please understand that India state boundary is available in the form of variable overlay maps, and I am adding it to map, so it will be there, but if I don't add it here, by default it will be switched off. I'll show you practically. So we have done the coding part of it. Now let me go to our web application. So now I have refreshed the map, and you can see that we have India state boundary layer which is added from GeoServer, and the same is available here also, so I can switch it on and off. So we have successfully added 3 base map layers and 1 overlay layers into our web mapping application. Now we will add a length measurement functionality. It is very much simple. We are again going to use a plugin for that. So I am copying and pasting this plugin here in my resources folder. You can see leaflet polyline measure JavaScript file and CSS file. I have added it to my resources. Now when I come to coding part, I have to add this thing in my HTML part. So let me add a comment first of all. Measure plugin, and here let me add JavaScript for that. So I have added a reference for polyline measure JavaScript file. Similarly, I have to add style sheet for that. And let me add link, resources, and polyline measure CSS. Now we'll go and write a bit code to add length measure functionality. So let us create a variable for control measure, and we'll use l dot control dot polyline measure. This polyline measure functionality is coming from the plugin which we have added just now, and I want to position it top left, just below the zoom in zoom out buttons. And when I place a cursor on the button, what tooltip should display? that is I am providing here measure length. This is the tooltip that I want. And finally I want to add to our map. This is a simple code. So we have created a control using polyline measure. We have provided some of the parameters and finally we are adding it to map. Let us see how it works. Let me refresh the web page. And you can see a button is added over here. When I put the cursor on it, it is giving a tooltip measure length. When I click on it, it turns into green and my cursor is now into a crosshair. Now I can zoom into a particular location where I want to measure the length, and then I can measure the length of this road just by clicking on it. So I can click at various places and you can see it is providing me the length. So it is working excellent. Now when I click it again, it will remove all the graphics. So this is excellent length measurement tool. You can see that there are lot many plugins available with Leaflet, so I don't have to write code for each and every functionality which I want to provide. I can simply use the plugin. So in this today's session, we have added layer switcher, which switches between multiple base layers as well as overlay layers. We have also added a measure functionality. So we will keep it up to this point for today. Keep watching, keep liking and subscribing our videos. It motivates us to come out with more and more useful functionality for you. Thank you.